Cooper Flagg, a name that already feels like the future of the NBA. At just 18 years old, he went toe-to-toe with Team USA and earned glowing reviews, proving he was the clear-cut #1 pick in the draft. As a freshman, he dominated college basketball with a rare mix of size, skill, and athleticism that makes him a complete package on both ends of the court. But then came draft night, and everything flipped. The Dallas Mavericks selected him right after trading away their franchise superstar. The fan base erupted in anger, calling out the front office. Dallas brought in Anthony Davis, but he went down almost immediately. And then came another bombshell: Kyrie tore his ACL. Just like that, the Mavericks' new era started with chaos. The Dallas Mavericks might have just pulled off one of the wildest turnarounds we've seen in years. At one point, it looked like they had completely destroyed their future. After trading away their franchise superstar, their fan base was crushed. Honestly, you could argue no team in the last decade had a fan base more down on their squad than the Mavericks were after last season's trade deadline. The energy was gone, hope was gone, and it felt like the Mavs had no direction. But then, out of nowhere, everything changed. Dallas became the luckiest lottery winner in NBA history, landing the #1 overall pick and securing Cooper Flagg, the most exciting draft prospect in years. Suddenly, the mood flipped. Fans who had given up were reeled right back in. And while the front office painted it like part of their vision, the reality is Dallas was gifted a miracle. Now here's the thing: as a prospect, I have zero doubts about Cooper Flagg. He's the real deal. Offensively, I actually think he's underrated. A lot of people label him as this defensive anchor, a two-way star, but don't give enough credit to what he can do with the ball. Sure, he's not Kevin Durant, he doesn't have that silky, polished scoring package yet. But his combination of size, handle, passing, and an improving jumper has been seriously undervalued. With the right development, he could become a Jimmy Butler-y type player. Not the guy you give the ball to every single possession like Luka once was, but someone who thrives attacking mismatches, exploiting defensive gaps, and creating opportunities off the catch. He can drive, he can finish, he can make plays for teammates, even if he's not a high-volume pick-and-roll player. That comparison makes even more sense when you consider some of the questions around his three-point shot. He's not yet a sniper, but both his mid-range and perimeter shooting made real strides during his time at Duke. If that growth continues, suddenly his offensive ceiling looks even scarier. And defensively? This is where Flagg shines the brightest. He does everything you'd want from a future star. He competes. He cares. He uses his athleticism to protect the rim, rotates as a help defender, and just makes winning plays. No, he's probably not going to be a Kawhi-level perimeter lockdown guy, but as a defensive playmaker and floater, his ceiling is massive. His instincts, timing, and motor make him one of those rare defenders who changes the game without needing to score a point. So yeah, as a prospect, there's nothing to worry about. But his situation in Dallas? That's a different story. On paper, it looks like a dream for a rookie. You've got Kyrie Irving in the backcourt, Anthony Davis in the front court, and role players with championship experience like Klay Thompson and PJ Washington. Surrounding Flagg with veterans, rings, and finals runs? That sounds like the perfect environment to grow. But the deeper you look, the more questions pop up. Where does he actually fit when this roster is healthy? To start the year, Flagg will have the ball a ton simply because Kyrie is sidelined with an ACL injury. But once everyone's back, Kyrie, AD, Klay, things get messy. Picture the lineup: Kyrie at guard, Klay on the wing, AD at the 4, another big at the 5, and Flagg slotted at the 3. For his development, that's tricky. He's not getting the on-ball representatives he needs, spacing gets cramped with double bigs, and suddenly Flagg risks being reduced to a role player, standing in the corner, taking spot-up shots, and attacking closeouts like an Andrew Wiggins-type piece. And that is not what you want for a #1 overall pick. Now of course, Dallas has options. They can experiment with different rotations, give Flagg more freedom, and build around his unique skill set. But right now, the balance between winning now with veterans and developing their young superstar feels delicate. Cooper Flagg has the tools to be special, but whether the Mavericks can actually maximize him, that's where the real drama begins. One of the best things about Cooper Flagg is his versatility. He's the type of prospect who can even slide into supersized lineups at the 1 or the 2, giving coaches endless flexibility. But the reality is, his overall fit in Dallas feels a lot more cluttered than you'd want for a #1 pick. Yes, the Mavericks are far stronger than the average team drafting first overall, and yes, they'll win far more games than most lottery teams. But what does that mean for Flagg's development? That's the real concern. The biggest issue is the inconsistency of his role. While Kyrie Irving is out, Dallas has been vocal about giving Flagg the ball and letting him create. That's huge for his growth and confidence. But the moment Kyrie returns, Flagg shifts back off ball, which is a massive adjustment for any rookie. Instead of consistently learning how to be a primary option, he risks being molded into a do-it-all piece, defending, filling gaps, and attacking only when needed. On the surface, that sounds like a good problem to have, but long-term it could stunt the growth of a player who's capable of much more. And this isn't completely unprecedented. We've seen situations like this before, and history hasn't always been kind. The clearest example? James Wiseman in Golden State. Coming into the 2020 draft, the Warriors had just lost Kevin Durant and were dealing with injuries, but they were still a veteran, win-now team. Wiseman was dropped into a roster where development took a back seat to chasing wins. He never found his footing, his role shifted constantly, and his career stalled before it even started. That's the kind of path Dallas has to avoid with Cooper Flagg. Back in 2020, the Golden State Warriors found themselves in a situation eerily similar to what the Dallas Mavericks are facing with Cooper Flagg today. Coming off a dynasty run, Golden State had just lost Kevin Durant in free agency, Klay Thompson was hurt in the finals, and during the following season both Steph Curry and Draymond Green dealt with injuries. Suddenly, a team built to contend collapsed to the bottom of the standings. But even with their stars sidelined, the bones of a championship roster were still there. That unusual combination handed them the number 2 overall pick in the draft, and a rare chance to reload instead of rebuild. With a glaring hole at center, the Warriors grabbed James Wiseman, the most talented big man in the class. Wiseman had insane physical tools and upside, but he was raw and still figuring out the game. And while his potential was undeniable, the situation he was drafted into ended up defining the start of his career. Golden State wasn't a tanking team that could afford to let him take his lumps. They were a championship contender in disguise, expecting him to contribute immediately. And when he couldn't catch up to that standard, the pressure swallowed him whole. That's the danger with situations like this. Most top 5 picks enter the league on bad teams. That's how the draft is designed. Those rookies get freedom to make mistakes. Their first couple of years are all about growth, not wins. If they lose 60 games, nobody cares, because the organization is focused on development. But when you land on a team that expects to win right away, that leash doesn't exist. Mistakes aren't tolerated. Every possession matters, every slip is magnified, and your growth can stall before it even begins. For Wiseman, the Warriors needed him to catch up fast to Steph, Klay, and Draymond. But he wasn't ready. His role was inconsistent, his confidence dipped, and before long, the team had moved on. The Warriors went on to win another championship, but Wiseman was left behind. Now, let's be clear, Cooper Flagg is not James Wiseman. Flagg is already far more polished. He dominated as a college freshman, he projects as a much better player, and his versatile skill set translates to winning right away. But the cautionary tale remains. Dallas is under as much pressure as any team in the NBA. They don't have time for rookie mistakes, and that's exactly what makes Flagg's situation so risky. The Dallas Mavericks went all in. They bet their future on Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving, and that gamble now defines everything about Cooper Flagg's situation. The pressure isn't just on the veterans, it's on Flagg too. Because in this environment, the moment he struggles, adjustments will be made. If he isn't sharp on the ball, they'll shift him off of it. If he can't consistently hit threes, PJ Washington will take his minutes. If he doesn't fit perfectly in a lineup, the coaching staff won't hesitate to cut his role. And that's what makes me the most nervous about Cooper Flagg in Dallas. They're simply not going to prioritize his development the way a number 1 pick deserves. This team has to win. They already traded away Luka Doncic in a move that screamed win now. That means even if it comes at the expense of Flagg's growth, winning will always come first. I can easily imagine a scenario where, once Kyrie returns, Flagg is down to playing just 25 minutes a night because they'd rather have Klay out there for spacing, or PJ Washington for defense. That's not how you build around a generational rookie. And let's not forget, Cooper Flagg isn't just young because he's a rookie. He's really young. He reclassified and entered college a year early, which means he's only 18, barely 19 when his NBA journey begins. Expecting someone that young to carry winning responsibility for a team under this much pressure feels unfair. When you frame it that way, Dallas doesn't look like an ideal landing spot at all. What would have been perfect? Pairing him with Luka. That duo could have been built into something terrifying for the next decade. Even if they were determined to trade Luka, They could have flipped him for a haul of draft picks and young talent to develop around Flagg. Instead, they moved him for Anthony Davis, a superstar, yes, but one with a long injury history. If AD goes down again, or if Kyrie never returns to full form, the future around Flagg looks shaky at best. The scary part? Dallas doesn't control any of its own first-round picks from 2027 through 2030. Their only true young assets are Flagg and Deck Lively. Outside of that, maybe Max Christie is a nice piece, but beyond those names, the cupboard is basically bare. And that opens up the nightmare scenario. Imagine this, the Mavericks push hard to win now, but instead of contending, they plateau. Maybe they win 48 games 2 years in a row, but fall short in the playoffs. By the time Kyrie and AD age out of their primes, all that's left is Flagg and Lively, and no picks to rebuild with. And the worst part? Flagg's growth could be stunted because instead of being unleashed, he's spent the past few years standing in the corner, watching veterans take the ball out of his hands. Of course, that's the pessimistic view. Cooper Flagg hasn't even played an NBA game yet, and there's still a wide range of outcomes. He could blossom, the stars could stay healthy, and the Mavericks might become instant title contenders. But the concern lingers, what's being sold as the perfect situation for Flagg in Dallas might secretly be the exact opposite.